Well, good morning. See the title today, it's quite a title. The sons of Noah separated into their lands, everyone into its languages according to their families, by their nations. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to break down what's called the Table of Nations. In Genesis chapter 10, look at the dispersion at the Tower of Babel in chapter 11, where God took the people, broke down their languages as they dispersed all over the lands. Ham went to in the lower picture here, went to Africa. Shem went east to Asia. Japheth and his family went towards Europe, Indo-Europe, and of course spread all over the world. And we'll look at this in the next few weeks. But let's take a look at the blueprint. God's blueprint for mankind after the flood, as we continue to see God's plan unfold. I like the format that David Hocking has. Okay. Thank you. He broke down what we're reading in chapter 10. It's right in the scriptures, but he broke it down to a social order based on clans or families, cultural development based on languages, geographical boundaries based on lands, and political affiliations based on nations. And we're going to read this and hear this over and over again in chapter 10. And of course, we'll see it happen in chapter 11 after the Tower of Babel. So let's take a look. Let's get started. These are the generations of the son of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. Now we're going to take a look at Japheth and his descendants. The son of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. Now what I want to do is I want you to look at these names. I'm just going to make some connections, purported connections to the prehistory, to the history, and to present-day countries today. Now please note, too, as these children of Ham and Japheth and Shem broke off into general areas, after a generation or two or three or four, they migrate into other areas too. But take a note of this. There's a strong baseline. As we look to this, to Gomer, Gomer is what is attributed to the European nation, or sometimes France. Also, Gomer is the old name for the Welsh language in the British Isles. Magog is the uttermost parts of the north, including the Black Sea. Madai is Medes, or the Persians, west of the Caspian Sea. Javan are the Greeks and Ionians. Ashkenaz. Have you heard of the Ashkenazi Jews? Germany. In fact, Ashkenaz is still the Hebrew name for Germany. Tubal, the people between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, the Tobolsk people of Lower Russia. Meshach, the people of Musky, ancestors of the Muscovites, who built, guess what? Moscow, northern Russia. Tyrus, the Etruscans of early Italy. You see it? You see this breakdown from Japheth. And there's a little more we won't go into, but we read in verses 4 and 5. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim. From these, the coastland people spread in their lands, each with his own language, by their clans or families, in their nations. As we were reading, and by their lands, by their language, by their families, by their nations. Let's take a look at Ham, his descendants. These are the sons of Ham: Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Cush is the ancient name for Ethiopia. Egypt is Mizraim. The Philistines come down that lineage. Put is Libya. And of course we have Canaan. We have the term for the Holy Land, the inheritance that the Jewish people would receive at the conquest of Joshua. But here's what sticks out when we look at the sons of Ham. The Bible wants us to get this name especially as we look at the Tower of Babel. Cush fathered who? Nimrod. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. This is after the flood. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore, it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Now, he had a lot of might and power. It doesn't necessarily mean it was going in God's, for God's favor and God's direction per se. But we know that many times that, and especially with this person, he had an ability to lead people astray. One author writes, this archaeological find from the Chaldean inscription from those days, Cush begat Nimrod, who began to prevail in wickedness, and he slew innocent blood and rebelled against Jehovah. In fact, it's been suggested strongly that Nimrod's name means to revolt or to rebel. And we read, in the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom was Babel, later on to be known as Babylon, right? Erech, Akkad, Calneh, and in the land of Shinar. And it continues, these are the sons of Ham by their families, their languages, their lands, and their nations. Let's look at the godly line of Shem now. Shem, the name. That's what it means, the name, renown. And that was chosen by God. Shem is the ancestor of Abraham, who is the ancestor of Jesus Christ. Remember we talked about that mosaic, those piece by piece by piece by piece, being put in through beginning of time. In the garden, in the beginning, all these pieces coming in till we get the full picture of salvation, the full picture of what God was doing. And so here we're getting more pieces, following that mile marker after mile marker after mile marker that is leading us to Christ. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber. Now, he is the father of all the children of Eber. Here, one of his grandchildren is being brought up. Eber is being put out there again for a particular reason. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder of the brother of Japheth, children were born. The sons of Shem are Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Elam is the ancient province, a Persian empire from Daniel 8. Asher, the ancestry of the Assyrian nation. Arphaxad, the ancestor of Abraham. And we continue. Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. Eber is the Hebrew for one who crosses the river. It is where we got the name Hebrew. The people, the group, the language. And we read later in scriptures that Abraham was a Hebrew because he came from the lineage of Eber. Is this making sense? As we see this plan unfold, this mosaic, these bits and pieces in the Old Testament, and that, again, this is why in the New Testament, when things are revealed and we understand now in Jesus Christ the whole plan of God, New Testament writers say this is the mystery, meaning it is the mystery that is now revealed to us. These markers, these pieces coming together in this beautiful salvation mosaic of Jesus Christ. And then we read in Genesis 10:25, to Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan is the ancestor of the Arabians. But Peleg, what does it mean? There's some different ideas of what it could mean. But Peleg is sort of a play on word. The verb pelag means to, to separate or divide, to separate of a language at the Tower of Babel from one language to another. In fact, in Isaiah 55, we read this. Same word being used, pelag, the verb of peleg. Psalmist writes, "Destroy, O Lord, divide their tongues," peleg, "for I see violence and strife in the city." I strongly believe that this is the name of Peleg, which means to divide the languages sometime after or through the Tower of Babel. The dispersion that occurred across Africa and Asia and Europe. And after a few more descendants, we read in Genesis chapter 10, verse 31, these are the, let me hit that. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. Do you see it? We have quite a genealogy. Some of us love genealogy, and they're good at it. And what about this? What still interests me is the Mia'o people. From creation to the flood, to approaching the Tower of Babel now, I have observed a line, an account that is so strongly connected to the biblical account that it is amazing. These people trace their ancestry to Japheth, who lived in Indo-European descent, I should say. And what happened? They lived in China for a while and were overrun by the Chinese. But their oral tradition of their ancestry is so strong and in many ways so connected to what we see in the Bible because of their oral tradition. They would repeat their oral ancestry over and over again at weddings and funerals and public occasions. And this is what we see from their genealogy. And I'm just going to make some connections. This is from their oral tradition, translated by Truex. First is dirt, or Adam, which means earth, right? Biblical Adam. Seteth, biblical Seth. I'm going to skip Lucy and Gala. We're not sure. Some corruption possibly. But we get down to number 5, was Lamech, who was the father of, next, Noah. Biblical Noah. And if we go down, we look, we have Lohan. He had 3 sons. Noah had 3 sons, Lohan, Loshem, and Lo-Japhu, or biblical Ham, biblical Shem, and biblical Japheth. Lohan, children, according to the descendants of the Mia'o people of China. Kusa is biblical Cush in the scriptures, in the genealogy. Mise is Mizraim, is Egypt. Lo-Shem sons, Elam is Elim. Gasher is the biblical Asher. And Japheth's son, Gomer, is the biblical Gomer, in order of what we've just read. Without any collusion, any conspiracy, without any missionaries or outside people coming in with names and dates in order, this is not a fraud. This is outside of the other history of the world and history of the scriptures. They have this as their ancestry. Isn't that something? See, God is telling us in chapter 10 of Genesis, as we prepare as a prelude to the Tower of Babel in chapter 11, this table of nations, where there was one nation, it becomes 70 different nations with different tongues, different families, different clans, different boundaries. And as we finish with Genesis 10:32 of this chapter. And again, if we look down to Africa, primarily this was initially Ham and his descendants. There's Mizraim, there's Phut. And as they spread out, we also have going into Asia, we have Seth going east and Mideast. And Japheth going to the left of the screen. There's the Ashkenaz, Germany, what would be one day be Germany, going to Europe. We read at the end of chapter 10, these are the clans of the sons of Noah, or families, according to their genealogies and their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. Wow. I mean, did God have a plan or what? I pulled this and asked Holly to put this up. This is really interesting. When did Columbus discover America? 1492. Very good. Some of us got that. I was thinking about it. I went, duh, he. You know, it's like 1492. This is something like an 80-ton stone that has a broken down version, a short version of the Ten Commandments. It's found in Los Luna, New Mexico, 35 miles south of Albuquerque, a 80-ton stone with a shorter version of the Ten Commandments, and they say it's pre-Columbian, which it means it's pre-Columbus. And there are stories after stories after stories. In southern Illinois, there were caves. They found ancient Egyptian artifacts in caves in southern Illinois. Digging and in the agriculture, as farmers are pulling up and tilling, they're finding stones with ancient Hebrew manuscripts. Not manuscripts, but stones that are engraved. Anywhere from 500 BC to 1000 BC. I think there's a little bit more to it that meets the eye, amen? And I think the thing about this, too, is we look at this one verse. These are the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies and in their nations. And from these, the nations spread abroad the earth after the flood. You know what this is saying? This is saying that there are different, I hate that. There's one race. There is one race. One race that goes back all the way to Adam. It goes back to Japheth, Shem, and Ham, which goes back to Noah, which goes all the way back down the patriarchs before the flood to Adam. One race. One human race. Amen? In the New Testament, as we read the scripture, the church exists. There are various cities and towns and lands that have churches in them. But the church is still growing. The Apostle Paul goes to Athens, and he is invited to speak in Acts chapter 17. So Paul is standing in the midst of the Areopagus. And he says to them, men of Athens, I perceive, because they had so many gods. They had a God for everything. And that's something we'll be taking a look in the next few weeks also. I perceive, Paul says, that in every way you're very religious. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription. To the unknown God. What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man Would you say from one man with me? From one man. Every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. Just what we read in Genesis chapter 10, according to their families, their languages, their lands, and their nations. So that they would seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is actually not far from each of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As even some of your own poets have said, we are indeed his what? His offspring. His offspring. In the sense that we are made in his image and in his likeness. I love the gospel accounts of this genealogy of Jesus. There's, I believe, two of them. It's in Matthew and it's in Luke. Luke does something interesting. He does a reverse genealogy. It's like reverse engineering. You go back till you get to the original pieces and parts and to the very original thing. This is what Luke does. Name by name, all the way back to Adam. Let's pick up just part of this because I can't do the whole thing, but it starts with Jesus. And it goes down. We're going to pick up in Luke chapter 3, maybe verse 32. Jesus, after all the ancestors, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, who was the son of Selah, who was the son of Nahshon, who was the son of Abinadab, who was the son of Admin, who was the son of Arni, who was the son of Hezron, who was the son of Perez, who was the son of Judah, who was the son of Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, who was the son of Abraham, who was the son of Terah, who was the son of Nahor, who was the son of Serug, who was the son of Reu, who was the son of Peleg, who was the son of Eber, who was the son of Shelah, who was the son of Canaan, who was the son of Arphaxad, who was the son of Shem, the name, who happened to be the son of Noah, who was the son of Enoch. I'm sorry, I skipped. Who was the son of Lamech, who was the son of Methuselah, who was the son of Enoch, who was the son of Jared, who was the son of Mahalalel, who was the son of Canaan, who was the son of Enos, who was the son of Seth, who was the son of Adam, and Adam, who was the Son of God. How is this? Because God made Adam in his image and in his likeness.